Let's talk real quick about, I think, the biggest topic of the night, and that's going to be Nintendo Switch Online. Obviously, we knew expansion pack was coming. They announced it during the Nintendo Direct, I believe. Nintendo 64 games are coming. I think that's one of the big things. Sega Genesis games are coming. And obviously, we found out some more. So I'm going to just give it over to you to give me, I guess, a rundown of the service.
Sure. Well, this would be an expansion on top of the Nintendo Online service that already exists. So it's not in lieu of, it's in addition to. So if you get the expansion pass, you also have online access to all of the games that require it, like Splatoon, Tetris 99, Animal Crossing, Smash Brothers, being able to connect with your friends in certain ways, having save states. And then with that, you get the NES and SNES online. So what this expansion pass is adding is a very modest collection of some of the greatest N64 games of all time. And then a random smattering of Sega Genesis games. And in addition to that, you also get the expansion pass. Well, you get to lease the expansion pass to Animal Crossing, Happy Home, Paradise Island Land.
You're very, very close. So
I confused it a little bit with Happy Home Designer.
It's Happy Paradise Designer.
Okay. Oh, is it really? Happy Paradise Designer?
Yes, Happy Paradise Designer.
No home.
Okay.
All right.
No home.
All right, forgive me, everyone. It's Happy Paradise Designer.
Correct.
But you could also purchase for a one-time fee Happy Paradise Designer for, is it $24.99?
$24.99.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what really I think has the internet raging is not necessarily the service and what it's offering, it's the price point. So people were speculating before we knew that it would include any of the downloadable materials, that it would maybe add $5, $10 at most for your annual fee, but they more than doubled it. It went from, for a single person, let's just say $20 to $50, which is really an astronomical jump. So it really caught a lot of people off guard, and it's nowhere near what people were speculating. So it dramatically defies expectations. So initially, I think a lot of people were just kind of aghast with what a shocking increase it was. Now, if you're getting the family plan, which I subscribe to, right now for basic mode, vanilla online, you pay $35 a month. If you were to get the expansion pass, that bumps up to $80. That's a pretty enormous jump. Now, I don't fully utilize my family pass because there's 5 people in my family, but still, it's more economical for me to have all 5 of my family members on a family pass than it would be to buy 5 individual memberships. But then when you start looking at I think with Nintendo Switch Online, I'm just going to give my real basic rundown. I have always thought that it was a really subpar service, and it has always disappointed me in terms of what it offers. But like most people, what I would say is $20 a year is really a drop in the bucket, which to me is Nintendo acknowledging that the service that they're offering has very little value and that there are a lot of concessions that you as a gamer are expected to make. They know that their online functionality is not good. Anyone who's ever visited somebody else's island in Animal Crossing,
I'll give you that.
Or anyone who has ever tried to play a Smash Brothers game knows that whatever infrastructure they have, it is not tight. It makes it very, very difficult to try to play online. Save states are also locked behind this online service, which is probably, I would say, the most compelling reason for most people to want to have Nintendo Switch Online, so that you can at least back up your Switch data from your save data, or transfer your data more conveniently between multiple Switch consoles if you have more than one.
Which is great. Cloud storage has saved my butt so many times.
Yeah, that to me was what got me into it, where I'm like, these Nintendo games, every one of these Nintendo games, for me, and I realize that every one of us have to make a personal value assessment.
Yeah.
So for me, the Super Nintendo games and the NES games are worth nothing because I own every single one of them multiple times. So I already have all these in my collection.
But not conveniently.
I have them conveniently on a Nintendo Wii U. Because every one that I wanted, I already bought through Virtual Console. And there's
Okay,
a
I'll
lot
give
of
you that.
shovelware on there.
So you're one of the few people that have your Wii U plugged in.
I would if
You
it wasn't
would.
in America. And I actually regret that it's not here in Taiwan because there are games that I would like to play. Like I want to go play Metroid Fusion.
Yeah.
I want to play Metroid Zero Mission. There's no way to play those games. So
Emulation. So my daughter
now,
and I and Happily Candied, we played Nintendo Land 2 nights ago. So the Wii U is still surviving in my house too. So
yeah,
it's good to know.
it's an awesome system that still has some games that have not been recreated or replicated in the game experiences, particularly in Nintendo Land, where you have the asymmetrical gaming. There's nothing quite like that.
You are a unique case. And by unique, I mean you and I are both unique cases, and I'm guessing more people in this stream are too. Not a lot of people owned Wii U's. Nintendo diehards, yes, they owned Wii U's. But the install base for the Switch compared to the install base for the Wii U, night and day. You can't even compare the two numbers.
That's true.
So to a degree, I mean, you and I, yes, I have the originals of all those NES and Super Nintendo games. I have them handheld releases. I have them on emulator. I have them on the Wii U. I have them on the Wii Virtual Console. I have
And you
them everywhere.
probably also
3DS.
bought an NES Classic and an SNES Classic, which, in my opinion, are superior to the Switch Online.
Yeah.
Now, I wish that the Switch Online was more like the SNES Classic and the NES Classic because the interface of those is much more convenient. When they first announced the Switch Online, they did suggest that there would be some ways that they would be tweaking these original classic games and
they
giving
are.
you fun new ways to play.
They are.
But they haven't really fully delivered on that promise. There are definitely some examples of it.
Mario
but-
Kart 64 online. I want you to think about just
Yes,
how
yes.
groundbreaking that is.
Okay. I was referencing the original NES
Okay.
and SNES Online, where they first started saying some of these classic game experiences are going to get a little bit of a twist.
Yes.
You can now play it online. You can compete for scores. I'm like, hey, that could be fun. Now they're transforming the experience. They're taking
Yes.
something that I enjoyed as a kid. With whatever limited capacity an NES or an SNES had, and Virtual Console was basically a straight up emulation of that.
Sure.
So now on Switch, they're iterating on it, and they're saying, hey, you can play classic Mario, but now you get to do it as Mario 35.
Sure.
But unfortunately, that's not something that's stuck around. They have occasionally dipped their toe in, let's expand these original experiences, but it's been very unpredictable. And anytime you're asking somebody to pay for something, that unpredictable aspect is really demanding a lot of goodwill on the part of your customer.
I'll give you that.
And I think that that's a little bit unfair because they need to be, in my opinion, a little bit more forthcoming with what you're getting.
To a degree, though, the other big two do the same thing, where the PS Plus games, you essentially get free games on PlayStation. You don't know what they are until they announce them, and they usually announce them when the month is coming up. So like a day or two before they're actually going to come out.
Well, you just hit the number one point right there, is they have a schedule, and they more or less keep to their schedule.
That's true.
Nintendo just randomly drops things on a Tuesday whenever they feel like it, months apart. 3 months can go by and you don't get a single thing, and then the next thing you know, you get Clay Fighters and
I'll take
two
Clay
other
Fighters.
games that nobody ever heard of.
I'll take Clay
So-
Fighters.
Sure, every game is somebody's favorite game, but not every. We don't even have Earthbound, and yet we have all of these duds on there. Now, don't get me wrong, the greatest games ever made for NES and SNES are on
Sure.
the Switch Online, but there's also a lot of really great ones that are not there, and there's a lot of really garbage ones that really have nobody asked for, nobody wanted, and nobody plays. They're just there to fill up a spot.
So let's go back to the expansion pack quick. So from the Nintendo 64 standpoint, I understand that you're not happy paying for those games because you have them somewhere else.
That's not just the only reason, because I think the way that they have presented this was really, they bungled it, because they hitched their cart to Animal Crossing when they didn't need to do that. And I think that they hitched their cart to Sega, and they didn't need to do that, because the value of the N64 games is the primary appeal of that package. So I don't care about any of those Sega games, and nobody should. And the reason you
Ooh,
shouldn't is
I was a
because
Sega kid. I care.
yes, but listen, you shouldn't. Because for $35, you can have 80 of those games on your Nintendo Switch right now in one collection. So having them in the Nintendo Switch Online doesn't contribute. And the games that they chose are such a random smattering. You have Sonic 2, or Sonic 1, where's Sonic 3, where's Sonic and Knuckles. You can get the Sega classics in a multitude of other better, more economical ways than this service. So by adding them, all you're really doing is saddling yourself to licensing fees that don't actually contribute to the overall value of your project.
I feel like that's nitpicky to a degree.
It's not, because
you're
it's
picking out
expensive.
something very small from a very large service. So from a Sega Genesis perspective, maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea. I
it
like the
costs
idea that
money.
we're getting a commitment from Nintendo that we're getting these Sega games that aren't just the same re-released Nintendo properties. It's nice knowing that Nintendo's partnering with Sega. It'd be cool if they do Neo Geo at some point down the line. I like the idea that it's expanding its horizons a bit out just of the standard Nintendo stuff.
I would rather it be and in addition to. So let me pay another $5 a month to get N64 games. Then if I want Sega games, I can pay an extra $10. And then if I want that Happy Home Designer Paradise Land, I can buy that separately.
That
If you
kills
want
the
to
whole
create,
subscription model.
then make a bundle. You still subscribe, but I pay at the tier that makes sense for me. Like cable used to be a thing. Do you remember cable?
Yeah, it was terrible.
If you want the premium channels, you add the premium channels to your service. So right now they have guaranteed that somebody like me is not going to buy this. I mean, never buy
in
it.
a way, this is the premium package. These three things are the premium. You take it or
Correct.
you don't. And if you
Right.
don't like the
But
price,
that's
and I
the
know a lot of
problem.
people don't like the
They only
price.
have the premium option. That's exactly the problem. Is they're saying you either get the premium option or you get nothing. And
No, not true. You can go back to just having NES, Super Nintendo, and online play for 20
they don't
bucks a
have
month.
they don't have any way for me to give them money for the part of that service that I want without giving them money for the parts that I don't. Putting the N64 games on this is free
That's
for them.
cable in a nutshell. That's what cable used to be.
Sure, but then if you want HBO, Showtime,
That's true.
any of the premium channels, you pay for them individually. And so it costs them undoubtedly way more to put Sega Genesis on here than N64 or this Animal Crossing thing. The Animal Crossing thing, essentially free. Of course, they put time in to develop it, but the amount of money it takes to lease it to people costs them zero. These N64 games, with the exception of Banjo-Kazooie, and maybe other ones in the future, we don't know, cost them zero for any of their first-party titles that they have exclusive rights to. Every single one of those Sega games, they're paying some licensing fee,
I'm sure
which
it's
they're passing on to the
minimal
customer.
to a degree.
I'm
But
sure it's substantially contributing to this. And we're not talking about a minor increase in price. We're talking about a more than double. It's dramatically increased to the point
we're
where
talking
now
we're
it's not
talking
a
50
no-brainer
bucks a
anymore.
month. So we're talking, what is it? What are we talking here? 12, 24, 36. Why am I having a hard time with my math here? Oops. We are talking about $4 a month. $4 a month for this service. It's dirt cheap. Sincerely.
Yes, but you're getting dirt.
You're not getting dirt. You're not getting dirt.
All of the
Here's
online
where I'm going to agree with you. To a degree, Nintendo, I wish, would have come out and said, in the future, expansion packs for major games are going to be included in the price of this.
I
To
don't
give
think
you
they
an
will
idea
be.
of what's coming down the line. So in that respect, yes, I wish Nintendo would be a little bit more forthcoming with that. But I have a family plan, and I have 8 people on my family plan. All 8 want the Animal Crossing expansion. We're talking $10 a year per person to get a $25 expansion pack. And on top of that, online play, NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64. In my opinion, $10 a month is a steal. And for
Well, in
people
your
that don't like
case-
playing this, I mean, paying this, try to find some friends that that pretty much have the same interests in you. Get the family membership and save a boatload of money if you're uncomfortable paying the $50.
You definitely are in a situation where you stand to make out like a bandit, because presumably, if you have the family plan, for every family member that signed up, you have access to the Happy Paradise Designer DLC. And in that case, you're basically saving $25 per person. So you're actually saving hundreds of dollars because of that unique situation. But in my case, I have one copy of Animal Crossing, and my whole family shares one island. So I would really much rather purchase the DLC and
Sure.
have it forever than for there to be some situation where I no longer feel like Nintendo Switch Online is valuable and I don't continue with my service, and then I lose access to that software.
Yeah.
And then what happens if maybe in terms of, and this is a really out there situation, but it's a possibility because Nintendo has done it in the past where suddenly something just vanishes. It goes off of the service and then they don't have it anymore. And then they pull it as a product that you can buy. And
that
then
might
you
happen.
don't have it. It might happen
It
because
very- it could.
they love to do that kind of thing. They pull the DLC off of Wii U games all the time. So we're talking let's say you really, really love Animal Crossing Happy Paradise Designer.
It's
And-
actually Happy Home Paradise. I was wrong.
Oh, I was right.
I know
There's a
I
home
was
in there.
wrong.
Oh,
I was
jeez.
wrong. My wife actually called that out to me from upstairs, saying how wrong
She's
I
like,
was. So
Jason,
it's my fault.
you
I'm
messed
sorry.
up again.
I
Happy
always
Home
do.
Paradise.
I always do.
All right. So we got this Happy Home Paradise. And if you're serious about it and you want to have it, and you anticipate that you're going to be one of those people who play this game far longer than the life cycle of the Switch, which people do because there's still people playing their Leaf Island. There's still people playing their
Sure.
GameCube
Yeah.
Island. If you don't purchase this DLC and you only have it by virtue of this online plan, there's the very real possibility it could disappear, just like the stuff from the 3DS and the Wii U has started disappearing. I don't think you can buy the DLC for Pikmin 3 anymore on the Wii U. I'm not
Yeah, I think they
100%.
migrated that over to the Switch. Yeah,
So
and I
you
give
might
you that.
be
I do.
So I want to own it. I want to buy it. I want to download it, and I want to have it forever.
It's not for you,
I'm
then.
if I'm beholden to Nintendo, it's not for me. It
It's not.
absolutely is
No.
not.
I agree.
And what concerns me though is that I think Nintendo kind of put themselves in a tough spot by marrying the expansion pack to that. It certainly is a dramatic way to increase the value for you in your situation. But I think for many people, they would probably be much happier to just select the pieces that they want. If I could leave the Happy Home Designer out, I would gladly give them $25 for that if I cared about it. And then I would subscribe to the N64 games because that's the only thing that has any appeal about this package. For an extra
I'm going down. Hang on.
$10 a year.
I'm adjusting my desk because I gotta get comfortable for this now, because
Jason has to ready himself.
I have a
If could
standing
give him an
desk, so I had to bring it down to sit.
Because really, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of this online service, we're talking about really two separate things. The online services and the virtual console.
Sure.
So the virtual console stuff, I would say, is as valuable as it is to you. If you appreciate Nintendo's NES, SNES, N64, and I'll even throw in Sega Genesis catalog, then if that's valuable to you to have on your Switch, it just is. And personally to me, I love and treasure all those games, but there's
Sure.
too many new games coming out for me to really feel like I'm seriously going to go back and play any of them. Although I will admit that if they were to have sold Ocarina of Time
Yeah.
and Majora's Mask exactly as is, as a virtual console purchase, I would have bought it, just like I bought it like 800 times, just to have it on my console in case I wanted to play it, even though I knew I never would. But if we're talking about their services, they're very lacking. They're very behind the curve. They're
They
not
are.
even anywhere
Yes.
even close to what they need to be. And this new expansion pass does nothing to improve that. So instead of actually fixing what's broken about Nintendo Switch Online, they're continuing to dress it up with by offering more, I would say, amenities that they hope would supplement how bad their service actually is, and they're making no bones about the fact that their price point is far, far overvaluing how much N64, Sega Genesis, and this expansion pass actually contribute to what this is worth. And because they've stuck them together, what it's worth to you and what it's worth to me, and we're not talking about a value, like a personal value thing. We're talking about legit money.
Sure.
It is worth more to you because you save hundreds of dollars because of you have 8 people who all would play this DLC. I'm not in that situation. So it actually is worth less to me than it is worth to you. And they didn't create a situation where we can both buy in. We both can't give them money now.
It is totally fair that you feel that way, and I get that. If Nintendo was saying this is the only way you get to play online, I would say it's a big deal. But for those of you who would prefer the $20 a year to keep the bare bones online pass, you have that option. And then for a bit more, and again, when you're looking at it from a monthly perspective, it's so minimal in comparison to every other game company out there.
But it's garbage compared to every other game company out there. Like I keep hearing that comparison.
In your opinion, I get that.
No, not just opinion, like objective fact.
I quite
Microsoft's
enjoy
online
the option.
service.
Let me give you an example. For some of the NES online games, I had a blast playing through them with save states. Like, I got hours and hours of entertainment going through games that I played as a kid that I could never beat.
Sure.
Ghosts and Goblins.
I get that.
Like, save states and Ghosts and Goblins, I made it to the end for the first time. It was amazing. It was a great feature.
Totally with you on that.
And then I got to play online games with people from the NES era that I could never do that before either. So I thought that was neat too.
Have you tried to play Mario?
We did, and that's I knew you were going to call me out on that because it kept crashing on us.
I know. Have you tried to play Mario Maker 2 or Super Mario Wii U Deluxe, or like any games that would be amazing with online? Sure. You just can't play. Microsoft, I have friends who play Microsoft for 8 hours straight into the night.
Sure.
With voice chat and seamless internet with no lag, shooting each other in fast-paced action games. Nintendo cannot even get a plumber and a mushroom to be on the same screen at the same time without it turning into a slideshow. I don't know what the difference is. I'm not a technical guy. I just know that if someone says, hey, you want to play multiplayer Mario Maker 2 online? I'll say no, because I value my sanity. But so when people try to make the comparison between Nintendo and the other companies, I just don't think you can compare it because the products are not the same.
Yeah, I'm paying 85 cents a month for this new expansion pack. I'm A-okay with it. I'm personally A-okay with it. 85 cents.
It's
so
even
cheap.
Still.
It's so cheap.
It's not as cheap for me.
It's not as cheap. Join my family plan, TJ.
I have 5 people in mind.
Okay, I can't. So you have a family plan already?
Yeah, I have a family plan.
So if you bump that up to the $80 a month, right? For the 5 systems that you have. I mean, it's still insanely cheap per month.
But
for what you're getting.
But I'm getting one Happy Home Paradise.
So $24.99, you can cut that off the top. That's fine.
You're getting 8.
You've already saved your money. You've already saved your money with that one thing.
Except, and I know that this is a TJ situation. I have no interest in that. So I'm not going to buy that expansion pass.
How dare you?
It's the least. I like to play Animal Crossing by collecting Nintendo items and hitting villagers with nets. I'm not really about designing homes and that kind of stuff. It's the aspect of the game that doesn't appeal to me. But so for me, that by putting that into it, it actually makes both of them less valuable. Where now I feel like if I buy the DLC, I'm spending money that I didn't need to spend. And if I lease it, then once I no longer subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online, I don't have it anymore. So they make me feel like I'm ripping myself off no matter what I do.
That is the same thing you could say about Netflix, Hulu, HBO. I mean, when you stop paying, you stop getting the content. It's just...
Except that that's not how games are.
It's how games have been for the past 5 years now. Nintendo's finally catching up.
No, the games are never like that. With games, you buy them and you have them forever.
No,
That's
no. Game Pass on Xbox. The second I stop paying for it, I don't get my games anymore.
okay.
And
But
that's a huge subscription model for them. And this is so minimal in comparison to that.
and what you get is minimal in comparison to that. Like
And you're
I'll
paying a lot
bet you,
less, so there you go. I
I'll
was
bet
paying
you a
like
lot of the money.
$120 a month for Game Pass, something like that. Or $120 a year, something like that, for Game Pass for one
I
account.
don't really know how strong of an argument it is to say that if you spread the family pass amongst 8 people, that it makes the price negligible, because that's not really the spirit of Nintendo's package. Like, they're not selling that with the intent of you finding 8 friends to connect with. They're
I think they
actually
are.
selling. I think they're selling it for me. People who have 5 family members in their house or more who share a Switch or who share a couple Switches, and they know that a dad is not going to buy each one of these kids a unique online subscription, but he might buy one that is an umbrella for the entire family.
In that case,
that's
I could
more.
see 4, but eight's a lot. Nintendo knew that friends were going to be sharing this account with 8.
I think they accepted that they would. But really, I think that only the truly highly engaged and really connected online gaming community would be able to coordinate something like that.
All right.
So the average gamer, and I don't know how much interaction either of us have with the average gamer, but I see people in my kids' jujitsu class. The parents all come up to me and they ask me questions about Nintendo Switch and
Yeah.
and things, because they're not tapped into that scene. I'm a 40-year-old guy. Most of the people who I talk to are around my age, and sometimes the questions that they ask me are so basic and so rudimentary that it reminds me that we are not representative of,
It's true.
of the norm. We're not representative of the gaming community at large. What we see on Twitter is not reflective of the people who purchase Nintendo's products. We are a small subset of that.
That's why I
So
feel like if Timmy came home from school and asked Mom, can I have $4 a month to play this game online? This new Animal Crossing game that I want to play online. It's $4 a month. You know, I get all these free games. I get access to this DLC for this game that you got me for Christmas. I don't think any parent's going to bat an eye at $4 a month.
I totally do, because now you're on a contract. Whereas if I was trying to sell this to somebody, let's say I worked at Toys R Us, which I used to do, and let's say I talked to parents who knew nothing about video games,
Sure.
which I used to do, and I was trying to sell this right now, I would be talking to a dad, and the dad would say, hey, so my kid wants to play Happy Home Paradise.
Yeah.
How do I do this? I'd say, well, you can subscribe to this and not actually own the game, but have access to the game for the full duration of your contract and pay X number of dollars. Or you could just buy it outright and own it forever for $25.
But you're a bad salesman
I'll
at
bet
that
you-
point.
I'll bet you anything. But I'm not. My
You're not
interest is
explaining that he can't play this game online with his friends unless you have an online service account, or any of the other added benefits that you would have to swap an island over. I mean, there's so much stuff that you could say alongside that. You could say you could buy it alone for $25, but Timmy can't play it online with his friends. Or for $50 a year, you get it for free. You get online service. You get all of these old games that you liked when you were a kid, you old POSU.
You're actually making the point for how convoluted it is.
It's a
You're actually
subscription
making the point
service.
for
It's not
How bad they
convoluted.
messed it up. But it's a subscription service that is now 3-pillared. You've got.
That's
your
great. The more
basic-
pillars, the better.
Yes, if you can purchase them individually.
No.
But because you can't purchase them individually, it makes it, I think, unnecessarily pigeonholed.
So what
If
would
they
you
really
have
did?
so for N64, what would be the appropriate price to add those N64 games in your eyes that you'd be like, I'm going to get this for these games? So you're
A
paying $20 a
no-brainer?
month right now. How much
Yeah.
more would you pay for that?
Where I wouldn't even think about it. If let's assume it was, I didn't have a family plan, because it's easier to think in terms of individual price value. Let's say for $20, I've made the value assessment that it's worth it. But yet also qualifying that by saying I am highly dissatisfied with Nintendo Switch Online, because the primary way that I would use it is playing games online with people,
Sure.
which I have accepted I cannot do. So I would say, and I do play Tetris 99, and I would say about 25% of the time, even though I have faster internet than anywhere attainable in America, mind you.
That's
My
true.
internet speeds are not even possible to achieve anywhere.
What do you down?
Country.
What's your download speed over there?
Like 1,500.
All right, yeah, I'm at 1,000. You win.
So I cannot play Tetris 99 reliably without getting kicked off.
Yeah.
So
I've never had an
that,
issue with Tetris 99. I've made it through every game I've ever played. Pac-Man Versus or whatever it's on there. I think it's Pac-Man 99. I can play that game consistently.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's I get your perspective on it.
But to answer your question, what would I not even think about? Where I would just immediately just upgrade for if it was just N64 games.
Sure.
25 I wouldn't even think about. I would do it in a heartbeat. And 30 I would probably take a pause and then still do it. 35 now I'd be thinking, okay, that's the same price as the family plan. So I could pay to have 8 people in the normal Switch Online.
Yeah.
Or is that worth the same amount as just one person adding N64? And I would probably say no. That'd probably be the breaking point for me.
Okay.
30 I'd go for. But if Nintendo did this, which they can't, if they said, okay, we now have 3 online pillars, your online services, your Nintendo Virtual Console, and your downloadable stuff. If you package all 3 of those pillars together, you're going to save a little bit of money. Or you can piecemeal it and buy each one of those separately. I would for sure buy the garbage online functionality because I need some of those features,
sure,
even though it is by far their worst. I would almost assuredly buy their Virtual Console games because even though I don't utilize them, I like the idea of knowing that I can whenever I want to. And like you, I enjoy the save states and I enjoy the being able to rewind and re-experience some games from my past that maybe were too difficult for me when I was a kid. And I would for sure not do the downloadable one for the reasons that we already mentioned. I want to own it. Sure. I don't want to lease it. And
I mean, anytime you buy any kind of digital software, I mean, you're technically leasing it no matter what. But
kind of, yeah.
I get what you're saying.
But at least if their service were to die, I still have it.
I would imagine if their service was going to die. Well, if Nintendo goes under, I'm concerned to a degree. But I would hope Nintendo would do the right thing and say, it's just yours at this point. But I don't know.
They would not. They absolutely would not.
But again, you and I think are looking at this through very different lenses. I am a physical media guy, and you know that. I'm a game collector. I enjoy purchasing a physical item over something digital. With something like this, though, I was taken aback too at the price until I saw that the DLC was included. And the fact that the DLC is included opens the door, in my opinion, heavily, that future large DLC packs are going to be a part of this service, saving me potentially $25 a year on a big game. Maybe it's twice a year. Maybe it's 3 times a year. I wish Nintendo would be a little bit more forthcoming, saying down the road, we're going to start including this as part of it, and not bait and switch and say, we're going to give it as this one-time thing and then it's never coming back. So yes, I wish Nintendo would be a little bit more transparent, but for me, I'm going to play the expansion. I'm going to play it for like 3, 4, maybe 5 months, and I'm done. I'm not going to go back and play it again. It's just, that's the way I typically operate when it comes to these games. And I love the idea that Nintendo could just keep doing a revolving door of like, here's your DLC this month, here's your DLC this next month. So I don't know.
But with that, and you brought this up with Xbox about how sometimes your Xbox Pass games go away. I don't know. I'm not confident that Nintendo isn't going to do that with the DLCs. The flavor of the month right now is Animal Crossing. Are they going to? I
would have to look at the fine print on that, because I sincerely can't imagine that they would say, you know, this is leaving the service next month. No more DLC for you.
I wouldn't like that. But
I don't think anybody would like that.
That they would be adding for all, like when Breath of the Wild comes out, and it will Breath of the Wild 2 rather.
Sure.
It will almost assuredly have DLC. The first one did, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a great way for them to extend that content.
Yeah.
They waited until the last Smash character was announced before they announced the price of this. And I think that was very deliberately done, not to confuse the point of that DLC being included in this, because you notice they didn't include that.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can still purchase all that DLC, and you can still purchase all the Breath of the Wild original DLC, and you can still purchase the Octoling
This is
expansion
new.
pass.
This is new. I have a
So-
feeling we're going to see some crazy things with Splatoon 3. We're
You're
going to see
probably
DLC for
right.
that. I mean,
But
it's
do you think that they're really going to try to leverage this online service to really keep including
Yes.
all of these?
yes, you have to.
It's possible.
Or people are
It's
going to stop
possible.
paying for it.
I
It's like
would
Netflix.
wonder-
Like, I always wondered, why is Netflix investing hundreds of millions of dollars on content where people are just paying to keep their Netflix subscriptions anyway? I was looking at some of the prices on some of the new programming that they had just recently, and it was just astronomical. But they have to keep it up, and I think Nintendo knows that. There's not a chance that Happy Home Paradise designing DLC pack
Wonderland,
4,
yeah.
whatever, is going to be the last thing. No way.
I'm sure it won't. And 6 months from now, the expansion pass will undoubtedly be worth more than it is right now, because presumably it's going to have Majora's Mask and Banjo-Tooie,
yeah.
or Banjo-Kazooie, and
We're getting
other
Sin and
things.
Punishment in the U.S. for the very first time.
I'm not
Sin
saying
and
there's an
Punishment,
appeal
man.
to this. I just feel like their messaging, their packaging, and their timing is really unfortunate. And I think a lot of people kind of share that sentiment. They did not prepare people for this, and I don't know that they were really ready for what a viscerally negative response people
On
were going to have
Twitter.
to it. Yeah, on
Twitter's
Twitter,
negative
on
about
YouTube.
everything. I mean, the only
Good
thing
point.
that's going to matter is when we see the sales numbers, and it's gonna sell gangbusters, and you know it.
I don't know it. I actually doubt. I wonder. I
The,
think
the wireless
$20 a
controllers
month-
sold out in 5 minutes for the 64
yeah.
and the Genesis.
Yeah, I get that, but they probably didn't make very many of them. It's probably, you know how Nintendo prefers to sell every single unit than to sell as many units as they can. They would way rather sell every single amiibo that they make and leave millions of people wanting than make enough and have even one left over.
Well, I did buy 4, so
There you go.
I
So I
want to
think that the
come back to
$20
this.
is
I want to
enough.
come back to this when the service launches
Yeah.
and we start seeing the reception at that point. I really do.
I do want to point out one comment that we got from a friend of the show, Affinity for Anime, because I agree with what he said. He says he thinks that the value proposition would be much stronger if Nintendo just dumped all of them at once.
Yeah.
And I really don't know why they don't, because they're selling a promise, and instead of actually adding value. If they were to say with Nintendo, the NES and the SNES,
Yeah.
and I still don't know why they don't do this.
Hype.
Here is a dump
Hype.
of every game that we ever
No.
made.
Hype. News cycle.
But how hype is Joe and Mac Caveman Adventure?
Doesn't
Like,
matter.
how-
News cycle.
But
I know this. I know
generally
this
tends to
so
be
much.
critical.
I know this so well because when they do announce these crappy Super Nintendo games, every single blog, including ours, loads the Twitter feed, the Facebook feed, the Google News feed with that. Nintendo knows what they're doing because every single month it's like, here's the new games, here's what's coming out. It's a surprise, it's a mystery. Majora's Mask and Banjo are not going to be the only two. They're going to surprise us with other really crappy titles. Maybe some
Yeah.
good titles, maybe Snowboard Kids is going to get dropped or something like that. But it keeps the news cycle going, and it gets people who don't have the pass saying, hey, that's my favorite game, I'm going to get it now.
You're right. It is super anti-consumer, though, and I hate that. I hate how everything about this is anti-consumer. I get that Nintendo is a business, and they're in the business of making money, but everything is it needs to be a simpatico relationship between the customer and the company. If the customer feels like they're purchasing something of value and the company is providing something of value, both parties are extremely happy with the exchange. But when the customer feels like they're being strong-armed, then it creates less of a favorable arrangement. And Nintendo owes me nothing. So I'm not sitting here with an entitled perspective feeling like, Nintendo, you didn't give me the product I wanted at the price that I wanted. But what I am sitting here saying is, I wish that you provided a way for me to be able to give you money for the things that I want and not the things that I don't. And unfortunately,
it's like
they
taxes.
Put me in a position where there are things I would love to be able to pay them for. Mario Kart 64,
sure,
4-player, that actually sounds like a really great
utilization
of a classic title with modern technology.
You'll be able to
that
come over to my
awesome.
house and play it with my Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack subscription service with my 4 controllers.
That sounds awesome.
You could do it too if you chose.
Just that I think it would have some value. It would add value. But from my vantage point, Nintendo took a service that wasn't even worth the $20 that they were originally asking, but it was a cheap enough denomination where people didn't mind ponying it up. And instead of adding value to a garbage service, they did the opposite.
Tell that to that adorable little monkey in Manatee from the new Animal Crossing expansion. I want you to look them in the eye and say that they add no value to the service. I changed the video. I changed the video on the screen right now so that you can look at that cute little monkey in the eye and say he doesn't provide value.
I'm going to take a deep cut from a Amiibo Jason Classic.
Oh God,
where I watched a live stream.
Don't use my words against me.
I'm going to use your words against you. And a live stream of you playing Animal Crossing New Leaf when I think you were testing out the Amiibo.
Okay.
Welcome Amiibo. You trapped a mouse in a hole, in a pitfall, and you whispered very gently in their huge ears, "Get out. Get out of my town. Nobody wants you here." That's what I would say to this walrus.
That is so sad. And it's a manatee. It's an adorable manatee, okay?
I fully respect that manatee's profession. I am not qualified to be the designer that he seeks, so I will leave that to the more qualified designers out there. It's not for me. The second that they add something that I do want,
Froggy chair. Froggy chair's back.
I'm crazy for that. Let's even shift it a little bit, and let's say this happens to be a DLC that doesn't appeal to me. But let's say it was adding a mode to Animal Crossing where all of a sudden you can use swords and fight with other villagers. Yeah, all of a sudden I'm like totally into this. I would buy it outright day one.
All right.
And I would be disappointed that it was also included as part of this pack. However, if I was in your situation, I'd be like, wow, I happen to be perfectly situated to save $200, like right off the top.
Yeah.
You save $200 off the top. They're making less money off of you.
Oh yeah, all 8 of us would have bought it
the way that they are than if you subscribe to the service. For me, it's a wash.
Yeah.
Like if I were to subscribe to the service or if I were to buy the product, it's going to eventually kind of come out to something pretty similar. But I wind up actually paying more for the online than I would if I just bought the pack. So it's because each individual gamer and customer's experience is so different, and the value proposition for each person is so different. I think that's a fundamental flaw in the packaging.
All right.
Where you want to try to create tiers where it makes financial sense for everyone to give them money, no matter what their gaming habits, gaming practices, or situation is, and they just haven't done that.
I feel like we're going to see some crazy numbers on this. I sincerely do. We'll find out. We're going to find out. It launches next week?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it might have an initial boom because there are people who are chomping at the bit to play these N64 games. And this Animal Crossing thing is going to do well no matter what. Yep. Whether they I'm sure you'll see a ton of people who subscribe for that, and you'll see a ton of people who just outright purchase that DLC. But in the long term, is this going to draw in customers? I wonder. And then we also have the added unknown quantity of what are they going to add, and is what they add down the line going to increase the value to the point where maybe I feel like, okay, I got to do this.
Again, I feel like it's like Netflix to a degree. You have no idea what shows and movies are coming and going, but as long as they continue to provide me with a consistent experience, I'm going to keep subscribing to Netflix.
But
The same thing goes for Nintendo. As long as they continue to provide me with adequate monthly or bi-monthly updates, whether that be DLC or online games, I'll continue. If they don't, I'm going to disappoint all other 7 members of my team and downgrade us. And that's Nintendo's challenge at this point. Because it's subscription based, they have to keep your attention. If they don't, they lose it.
But games are in a different situation. Like with the vast majority of Netflix content, Netflix is not the exclusive means by which to see it. If you want to stream it, you need to buy it. You need to watch that. But let's say I want to watch Creed 2.
Well, movies, yes, but Netflix original content, no.
But Netflix original content,
which is like 90% of their service now. It's all original.
It's 90% of what they're advertising to you. But I would say it's probably not. It's probably like
got my Squid Game.
Yeah, 10 or 15% of their overall.
Hey, out of curiosity, what is Squid Game like there in Taiwan? Is it like the phenomenon it is here?
My wife watched it. It's
Sure.
not my kind of show, so I didn't see it. Nobody's really talking about it.
Okay, I know it's a Korean show. I'm not saying because you're an Asian.
Well, this Korean like wave that's hitting isn't just limited to dramas. It's also music and everything, and it's permeating every country in the world right now. So this is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, right now, there's a huge Korean media push, and that is definitely influencing Taiwan too. So we have Korean music groups playing, and I would actually estimate that Korean entertainment is probably bigger in Taiwan than in America.
Yeah.
Right now.
Trust me, this is a weird thing that a Korean show overtook Stranger Things on Netflix for most watched. It's crazy.
I'm also surprised that at this particular show, because it skews to a very niche type of viewer. Like I don't watch anything horror, and I'm not really interested in gruesome.
It's not.
And I don't
really not.
like. Just not my kind of show.
I get it. It's much more tame than you would imagine. There's some blood. It's not like people are getting their heads chopped off or anything crazy like that.
Well, people pitch it to me as like saying, imagine like a Hunger Games kind of situation where these people have to like kill each other or win at these games, and losers die and the last person alive wins. I'm like, so like Battle Royale meets Hunger Games?
Yeah, it's more or less.
I'm like, yeah, I'm out.
It's got a strong message too, so it's a little preachy, but I like it. I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty good. And we have the other Squid Game coming out soon. Splatoon
you're
3.
not alone. Obviously, it's a cultural phenomenon right now for it to be Netflix's biggest show. So I definitely see that I'm in the minority there, because everyone who I know is talking about it and loves it. But I'm like, I'll just watch some cartoons. I need something that's going to make me feel calm and relaxed and good at the end of the night. Not something that stresses me out.
Before I forget, I need to call out that we had our first subscription to this show from the good man Gillentime, or woman, I'm not sure, person. Gillentime, thank you very much for the subscription.
We appreciate it.
It's really neat. That's our first sub for this show.
Amazing.
I'll take it.
I'm honored.
So, any other thoughts on this subject? I mean, we pretty much used all of our time on this one thing here.
The only thing that I want to mention is there were all those rumors that I hesitated to believe over the past year about some big how-to-do with Nintendo's 35th anniversary. And those rumors were saying, oh, we're going to get Skyward Sword, we're going to get Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And it seemed too good to be true. And now that I see the way that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are materializing on the Nintendo Switch,
that makes me sad.
I'm kind of crushed. I'm crushed that the only way that I can play these games, and they look beautiful, like they look gorgeous the way that they've been up-resed or whatever the situation. They look extremely crisp in the HD, but I'm gutted. I wished that there was a way that I could play these games on Nintendo Switch that was not part of this service it makes me feel like the hopes of getting any kind of remake or maybe port of the 3DS versions on the Switch are completely dashed.
I feel like at some point down the line, Nintendo, if they hate money, they won't, but we'll see Ocarina of Time remade at some point. Which I'm going to be very odd about it. It's going to feel very strange to me. Final Fantasy VII was one of the other very, I guess, defining games of my youth. I was a big JRPG fan. I still am. But I never batted an eye when they said they were going to have the remake. I think because it didn't feel like a perfect game when I played it. I could see the flaws. With Ocarina of Time, even when I look at it now, it's not a gorgeous looking game, but it is to me.
Well, remake
still looks perfect.
The remake's totally gorgeous.
Yo, on 3DS, yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I want to, like I said, I don't like to play handheld. I want to take that little 3DS game and I want to put it on my Switch and play it on the big screen.
I feel like we're going to see a full-fledged, from the ground up remake of that game at some point.
I would play it.
Oh, I'd play it too. It would feel weird to a degree. But that's, I guess, a topic for a different day.
And Ricky Berg also did point out that Mario 64 is also on that 64 online service. And of course, we did get that bizarre bare bones Mario All-Stars pack. So maybe
I'm not too happy
complete
about
loss
that
of hope, but I'm not ambitious at this point that we're going to be seeing anything special Zelda anytime soon. And then the only other thing I want to say, and this I'm sounding like a broken record here, is that how did we get through a 20-minute Animal Crossing Direct in Zelda's 35th anniversary and not a single Zelda item put into this game?
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked on that too.
I was expecting like Wolf Link and Ganon.
I was fully expecting that to be part of the 35th anniversary. Nintendo did Zelda dirty, in my opinion, for this anniversary.
So
you know, it's actually funny. The Game & Watch is coming out in like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I forgot about it because it's so lackluster. Yeah. It is. I'm getting it.
It's better than the Mario one, though.
I like the Mario one, for sure.
I do too. We bought it, but the Zelda one's better.
I agree it's better, but from a 35th anniversary perspective, it's neat, but it's a novelty that's going to be in my drawer for all eternity. It's not going on display. I'm not going to play the entire flipping game on that handheld. Right. When I have so many other better ways to play that game.
Like Nintendo Switch Online.
There you go. That fantastic service that I'm paying 84 cents a month for.
But you can't play the original Game Boy one on it yet. And I imagine that probably at some point you will be able to. And is that going to be like another expansion, or is that going to be rolled into the expansion that they have right now? Because that would be, I would say, if they put Game Boy Advance, you know what? If Game Boy Advance went on there, suddenly we're talking.
Sure.
Because you got that kind of stuff on there. There's a lot of games that are lost on Nintendo's catalog. Like we just mentioned earlier in the show, Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid Fusion. People want to play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think Nintendo's in a weird spot right now where people are dying to play Metroid.
And they can't.
There's no good options, which is mind-blowing. I mean, there's been rumors that the Metroid Prime trilogy was going to make its way to the Switch now for 2.5 years. Metroid Prime 4, I'm just assuming, is never coming out. And if it does come out, it's going to come out next year, holiday, when the Switch Pro comes out. Because I'm moving the goalpost to 2022 holiday season for the Switch Pro. But yeah, it's a weird position to be in, where you have all of these amazing classic Metroid games and no way to play them. Nintendo can't sell them if they wanted to.
Yeah, and I miss my Virtual Console. Some people were saying to me that I gave my initial thoughts of the Switch Online expansion pass without doing any online stuff. The way that the schedule for me weekly works is I typically start working on it my Friday morning, which is actually Thursday night in America. But because I knew that was releasing on Friday, I couldn't wait. So I waited till 10 p.m. at night and watched the Animal Crossing Direct, and then immediately put that into Me Weekly. So my thoughts were super fresh, extremely fresh.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if my reception to it was going to be the same as most of the internet's. And so some people in the comments agreed with me. They were like, yeah, maybe that is a little bit pricey. And someone else said, would you rather buy all of these virtual console games separately like you did on the Wii U? And I was like, yes, absolutely I would. In a heartbeat. I would rather buy each of the games that I want piecemeal, a la carte,
Sure.
so that my system is overwrought with games that I enjoy and that I want to play, and I don't have to filter through a bunch of crap that I'm never going to play anyway.
So let me give you this last suggestion. Buy yourself a Steam Deck when that comes out and load it up with emulators. You're good to go. You never have to worry about it again. You got a handheld that's just like the Switch with N64, GameCube, whatever you want to throw on there. You're good to go.
I'm gonna let you in on a secret that's not that much of a secret. I am too dumb to own a Steam Deck.
It's not that hard.
It's not for.
I'm not condoning
tech-savvy
piracy,
folks
by the
like
way,
yourself.
so don't do any of that stuff. It's bad.
Part of the reason why I'm a big Nintendo fan is because I am a dum-dum. I just like to take the thing and put it in the thing and play the thing, and it just work.
All right.
Which is why I hate Joy-Cons.
I'm learning to love them a bit more, but I'm pretty much with you still for the most part.
I play with them exclusively, but
Yeah.
you know, I use the buttons at the bottom whenever possible.
Good.